Okay. No, great. I'd like to call tonight's ADR meeting to order. Um, We always start all of these town meetings with up to 3 minutes of public comments. If there's anybody on Zoom or in the audience tonight who would like to comment on something that is not on the agenda. Okay, great. So the first item is the approval of the February 15th meeting. Did either one of you read over those minutes from the February 15th meeting? Is yours not going on either?
Yeah, I read through it and it seemed fine to me.
Okay, so I second that, so we can approve those minutes. And the first project is 28 Walnut Avenue. And we've seen this project multiple times. We're hoping that Joey will be here momentarily because she's made comments on this in previous meetings. While we're sort of delaying for a minute or two, waiting for Joey, just let me describe for everybody in the audience. The way the ADR meetings work is when we first start a project, the town makes a short presentation about the project, a short summary, then the owner and/or design team make their presentation, during which time the ADR members might or might not ask questions of them. After that, we then open it up to the public for comments, and then we bring it back to only the ADR members who then make their recommendations to the town council. Is Joey on Zoom?
No, she's not. And Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't think your mic is working. Can you
Okay,
grab
it's
Mark
got the
Fritz?
green,
And I'm just not hearing it through
yeah,
the-
it's got the green light on.
Can
Is
you
this
grab
better?
Mark?
Okay,
That's better.
I think I was just
Thank
too
you.
far away. Sorry,
Thank
Rebecca.
you very much.
Can we go out of order on this, just so we can come back to Walnut Avenue once Joey's here?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So we will move on to 205 Lagunitas, which is the Lagunitas Country Club. Can you present that to us, Rebecca?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't put on. Okay, hold on. I did not print out my notes, but good evening, Chair Kushnet and ADR members. I do not have my notes in front of me, but I will try to wing it. So tonight, the Lagunitas Country Club is proposing a platform tennis court adjacent to their existing platform tennis court. It is sort of up in the hillside behind, away from the club building, adjacent to that existing court. There are 6 lights proposed with this platform tennis court. Those lights will require a use permit amendment. There's an existing use permit for the country club specific to those, to lights and hours of operation of the lights. And so if the design gets approved tonight, then the next step would be at the town council to review the design review as well as the use permit amendment. So tonight, staff is asking that you review the platform tennis court in lieu of the design review guidelines.
Okay. Is there someone representing the country club that wants to give a
Yes,
short
there is.
presentation?
Yeah.
Please step up to the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Oliver Dibble. I am the chairman of the House and Grounds Committee for the Lagunitas Club and a member. What the club is proposing is the
Sorry, she's just going to turn on the mic so that way people,
I've pulled the plans up too for,
I've got the stuff on the stick.
I've got them right here.
Sure. Is it recording? Okay, great. So, are we good? Yes. Okay, so the club is proposing the addition of one more platform tennis court. We have 3 permitted and existing, and we want to add one more. The design of platform tennis courts, very standardized. There's a national organization that controls the design of these tennis courts. All of the fences are the same. All of the platforms are the same. The lighting is recommended as to location. And, you know, entries and things like that are the same too, because the platform tennis game is played using the fences as surfaces to play off of.
right, and it's just going to be identical to what we all saw
Exactly.
is already there.
It's identical. I don't know if you guys got a chance to go over and look at the story poles.
Yes.
But, so what we're doing is we're dropping it into the ground adjacent to the court that we have. The idea is to make it as low as possible to reduce the aspect of the court from the parking lot and from elsewhere. We've designed it with modern LED fixtures so that there is not a lot of light glare that's coming off. The fixtures are programmable, so they can illuminate the court only. And they all are masked. There's no issues with regard to that. That it's a very simple project, and it will look virtually identical to what we have.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the ADR have any questions?
All right.
Okay, oh, sorry. Actually, Stephen has some questions.
My questions were, what's the finish of the surface of the retaining walls intended to be, or maybe I missed that, and I apologize if I did. And the second one, I see that there's this slope area between the two that would be planted or kind of native-y, and then there's a space between the bottommost retaining wall and the court itself, and what would you see in that space there?
The retaining wall could be, the material could be any number of things. It could be wood, as are the other retainers, pressure-treated wood, or it could be concrete, and, you know, planted over and turned into a green wall. There are a number of choices there. Those are the 2 that we're honing down on. With regard to what you would see, I think you'll see, the retaining walls are not higher than the fencing. The fencing is higher, so you wouldn't really see anything through the court.
Sure, I'm wondering the material that you'll see through the fence to the wall. The existing one is a low wood retaining wall. Are you envisioning the same thing for this?
This retaining wall needs to be a little bit higher.
A lot higher,
too.
yep. Yep.
That retaining wall is about 6 feet. This retaining wall is about 9 feet.
Yep.
And so we are retaining more, but what we're getting is something that's dropped down further.
Understand. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public, either here or on Zoom, that wants to comment? I believe we have a raised hand. Rebecca, on the screen. Like a-
I don't see the raised
Oh,
hand.
the woman in,
Oh,
the
she's
purple, she's
physically
physically raising her hand, yeah. Thanks.
Della, you can go ahead and speak. Would you like me to unmute you? Okay.
Hi, my name is Deli Woodring. I live in Belvedere. I'm a member of the Lagunitas Club. But I had understood from Oliver that there was an ADA component to be presented with this design. And I wonder if you will be addressing that tonight.
I can go ahead and address that for you. That is something that, when the application first came in, we routed it to the building department, engineering, fire department. There were some comments about ADA compliance. They are working with a CASP certified person to accommodate the to meet the ADA compliance. So that's more, it's not necessarily a design component. It possibly could affect the design. However, I don't think it will. It's all flat work. And so that will be vetted, and the building permit will not be issued unless it is ADA compliant.
Hi.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if I'd see it tonight.
No.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has any comments? No? Okay, I will then bring it back to the ADR to make the recommendation to the town council. Is there someone who'd like to go first? I was not. It's a very nice club. Congratulations. I went and looked. It seems fine to me. Obviously, there's no neighbor issues with the lights because there's no one here objecting to it. Place looks great. It'll just be another court. I'm fine approving it as it is, or recommending it for approval as is.
I can recommend approval as well. I would suggest that the, that the wall material match the existing retaining walls in wood, not necessarily of structure. They might have to be concrete, but I think they should match the cladding of the existing retaining walls. Or, if that proves prohibitively expensive, that they be planted with something that covers them with vegetation. So I would recommend approval with that condition, or suggest that to the council with a condition that way.
Thank you, Stephen. Lauren?
Hi. Yeah, I will go ahead and give my recommendation for approval. And I think what Stephen said about the planting or the materials makes sense, so I agree with that.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for your time. We will now move backwards in order to 28 Walnut Avenue. Sorry to the owners and anyone else. We just needed to get a quorum here, or get all the appropriate people here. We wanted to make sure you were here for this one, since you've seen it before. None of that, that's fine. Okay, so now we'll move on to 28 Walnut Avenue, which we've seen before. So Rebecca can do a short introduction, and then maybe the property, well, the design team can just then do a very brief reintroduction on what has changed since we saw it last time. Thank you.
Yes, so the project is located at 28 Walnut Avenue. This is the third time it's before the ADR tonight. The project architect has made some changes based on the last round of comments from the ADR members, and she is here to present those to you tonight. This one? This one?
So, after the second ADR meeting. After the second ADR meeting, thank you, what we did to change, and I'm hoping Rebecca will be able to find the drawing. If not, it's actually attached to the plans. We could probably find it on the plan sheet. We removed the living room deck that's out front with the columns based on the discussion from the ADR members. The original house has 145 square feet of deck facing two neighbors. It now goes down to 0. Go back one more. Yeah, if you can enlarge that one, that would be great. We modified all the glazing so that there was a consistent style with added mullions and consistent grouping 2, 3, or 1. We revised the living room 3-door group in keeping with the consistent modular glazing pattern. We removed all modern elements. Per Joey's suggestion, we increased the width and length of the lower entry addition, standing forward of the east volume for added visibility, with revised landscape paving so you could see where to enter the main house easily. We made the front door extra wide with mullions with glass so it became more prominent. The south sunshade roofs reflect the design review guidelines, which say utilize external shading devices to manage solar gain. This house faces due south. They will have 4x4 brackets with receiving boards. The design review guidelines says vary massing so you don't have monolithic, bulky structures. Use front articulation. From the perspective drawings, you can see that there are varying vertical planes in the offsets that range from 1 to 6 feet relating to each other, with varying roofs and human scale elements. The added connector is in the middle of the lot, in the middle of the buildable envelope. The design review guidelines proposes mass to be to keep the shoulders of the building down near the neighbors, as this does. The existing front-facing windows, as we talked about before, are 110 feet away from our front neighbor, who has a non-conforming rear property line setback of 7 feet. There is only one west-facing window. It is at clear story height, and it's approximately 24 feet from the adjoining property, where 30 feet would be required in a typical 15 to 15 setback situation. Now, Rebecca, if you could get to those photos again, I hope this works. So I went through the design review guidelines again, as I had done before, and I decided that I would focus my energy on what the design review guidelines says is the essence of what they're looking for, which is design buildings to fit the community. There is an image, the first one right there, click, I hope. This is a page out of the design review guidelines, which shows a minor street relationship, moderate slope, with the entry element relationship is where the entry element street relationship at significant slope. So you can see from the street, you don't see much house. Then if you go to the next one, Rebecca, I hope. Oh, I should explain while she's doing that, yes, that first one, that's 30, which is on our west side. The whole north side of that walnut is our neighborhood. It consists of 4 houses, 30, which is on the screen there, ours, 26 and 24. The reason that I say that's our neighborhood is because in the context pictures in the map that shows in the design review guidelines, Walnut is divided. Our side of the street is in minor street relationship, moderate slope. The other side of Walnut and going downhill, going down to meet Lagunitas, is in constrained grid, where the houses are much more prominent in their relationship to the street. So this is 30 Walnut, and then go to the next one, Rebecca. This is half of ours, that's that lower garage. Here is if you pause right there, this is ours 28. Above the car on the left, you can see a teeny tiny orange flag. That's way up higher. There's a tiny flag that's a piece of the story poles. And if you look above the left-hand stone pillar, way up at the top, you can see a teeny tiny bit of orange flag again, the other story poles. Then the next house down the street,
So I think we could probably dispense with the pictures of the neighbor's house because we've all been to this site multiple
okay,
times
so I
now,
will
so
point
we're
out
well
that in
aware
the
of
Upper Walnut, the Solis house, the 30, is 4,000 square feet. Our proposed house in its entirety is 3,600 square feet. The Thompsons is 2,400 square feet, and the Livermores is 6,000 square feet. So we are right in the middle of what our neighborhood would be. In addition, now if we go to the other pictures, keep going down. I have some aerials that you couldn't see. That one down there, if you can make that one bigger somehow.
So I think it would probably just be better for us to concentrate just on the changes because we're very familiar with how it was the last two meetings.
The
So
reason
it-
that I'm bringing this up is because when someone talks about mass and bulk, I'm talking about neighborhood context. We are in the same scale, the same location in the lot. This is a picture of the Soleil's roof and our roof. If you go to the next picture, you did, thank you, Rebecca. Okay, go up the one above that one. This is what it looks like as it is now, and then if you can go back to the where you were, this is the footprint of both houses. So what I'm showing you is, if you want to talk about scale of neighborhood, we are right in the scale of the neighborhood as defined by the design review guidelines. Our house is shingle, all four houses are shingle. Our house is in the color palette, the neighborhood is in the color palette, which didn't wind up here today. It has consistent two-story garages, 2 of them attached, 2 of them detached. There are non-conforming setbacks on 3 out of 4 properties. In fact, we are right in the context of what is consistent with the neighborhood for style, scale, lot location, color, and materials. And I hope you can approve it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, stay up there just in case there are any questions. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the project? No? Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes, Laura.
I just have 2 questions, not related to the actual building, but just the Douglas pine that's getting taken down. Is there a reason why? Because I know some of the neighbors are concerned about privacy, and even though those houses are further away, taking that down kind of increases that. So are there any, and then also, are there any large trees being planted?
That is the only one that's coming down that's of significance. The other ones are dead. This one is shaped like a lollipop. In fact, it was lion-tailed by some realtor, which means the branches were trimmed all the way out to the end, like the end of a poodle's tail. And what the arborist said was, this is an example of bad treatment for trees because as the limbs develop only at the edges, they break off. It does nothing in terms of privacy for the neighbor because most of it is a lollipop. This stuff on the top is above our house. That's why we're asking to take it out.
Are there other larger trees being planted?
No, but before I answer that, my landscape designer, who has been here for every meeting, is finally going to get a question.
Answer a question. We are definitely planting some larger trees. We're planting 2 Catalina ironwoods towards the front of the property. There were redwoods there that had to be taken down. I think they were the neighbors. And so I want to put some nice tall trees in there, and they grow pretty fast, and they're good native trees. And we're also planting some pistache, and they're not as big, but they will block the view from the south side looking north. And my goal is to plant them as large as we can get them. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Huh? Yes,
How about now? Is that better?
I can hear you.
Okay. Could you speak to the type of screening that might go in between the proposed ADU and the neighbor to that side, and the size of the plants that you plan to plant?
Yeah, So right where the house is, there isn't quite enough space to plant a hedge. I would love to put in a hedge, but I believe the fire department would not approve the hedge because of it's just a little bit too close to the house. So we'll hedge it as soon as we're further away from the house. So as soon as we can put up a hedge, we will. And I would do probably California myrtles in that location.
So the portion that's the closest to the neighbor,
Would have
The new-
would have a 6-foot fence.
okay. And
So-
any attempt, could you grow anything on that fence, or there's not even enough? I mean, I think that's by virtue of how close the
Yeah.
ADU is to the property line. There's
Yeah.
not even enough room to plant.
I think we could put something on the fence. I would totally be, it's not on the plan right now, but I would not be opposed to that. It does kind of bring down the fence, and I'd want to check with the fire department to make sure it was okay, because vines have a tendency to be, can also be a fire hazard, so I wouldn't want to do that.
But at the last meeting, Rebecca pointed out that if requested, one is allowed to put a 7-foot solid fence, and the neighbor agreed to that. And the degree of where it's solid is going to be worked out on-site with the neighbor so that they can stand and see what they can see. We've been in
Okay.
contact with
Thanks.
Does anyone else on the ADR have any questions? Okay, I'll open it up. If anyone at home or in the audience here has any comments, now you may speak. And please speak into the microphone once you start. Thank you.
Hello, members of the ADR group. I'm Chris Soleil. My wife Marnie and I are the contiguous neighbors to the 28 Walnut project. I've addressed you before, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to do it again. I'll speak quickly because I know that you have a big agenda tonight. So according to John and Gabby's architect, Phoebe Bressick, we are the neighbors most impacted by John and Gabby's project at 28 Walnut. And just as a quick aside, since we all have those pictures in our head, the size of the two lots are extremely different, and I'm not trying to stand up here and flex. I mean, you guys have been to our house because you just considered a pool. I would say that probably my lawn is the size of their lot. So they're building out to the edges. My house doesn't go anywhere near the edges except on their side, I would say. Maybe a little bit on the other neighbor. Okay, the front west corner of their proposed home will stand 5.5 feet from their property line and 12 feet from our home. That's extremely close, but as I explained before, we were told by the architect that there's nothing that we can do about it. It's the new ADU law, they can go up to 4 feet, and we've since learned that she is correct. So this is my third ADR group meeting about the project at 28 Walnut. You can probably tell that I'm slightly frustrated by it, but I've learned that there's not a lot that I can do. This is also your third meeting. In preparation, I actually went back yesterday and spent a good amount of time going over your notes from the January meeting and from the February meeting, and I'm just going to remind people about what's been said. So 4 members of the ADR group were present at the first meeting, and they expressed objections to the size, mass, and positioning of the proposed project. 2 of you described the proposed structure as monolithic. Another commented that it looks like a hotel on a hill. 3 out of 4 members felt that the form doesn't follow the topography of the site, and far too much mass is being put forward to the left side of the property at the expense of the neighbor's property, which is mine. 3 members objected to the bridge connecting the main home to the ADU, and the general consensus was that the bridge needlessly adds to the mass of the project. At the February meeting, the ADU roof was altered, and the ADU was slightly reduced in size so that it could be removed from view by this ADR group and handled through ministerial approval. And from here on, the ADU exists as a big red box on the plans, a red elephant in the room that everyone is supposed to ignore. Touche. At the February meeting, 5 out of 5 of you were present, and 4 of you commented that the mass of the project had not been altered and was still too large. 1 of you said it doesn't feel like the comments of the ADR group were heard. It feels like there was just a way to work around them. Another said that the facade still has an enormous feeling to it, and it is unbalanced. 5 of the 5 of you commented that the bridge component was unnecessary and added bulk to the project.
Sorry, that the beep was the 3 minutes. Can you wrap it up?
Yep.
Thanks.
I'm sensing a common thread. The mass of the project is 28 Walnut's too large, the bridge component unnecessary, and the design is monolithic, and it doesn't follow the topography of the site. So I ask you, why are we here for the 3rd meeting in a row doing the same thing without any changes? It's my birthday tonight. I did not want to be here. I don't want to think about their plan again. I actually reached out to the Bressicks before, to Phoebe Bressick, and I asked her, we wanted to make plans for tonight. Can I just see what the plans are that you'll be submitting so I can decide whether or not to be there? She told me they'll be up on the town website in a week. We don't speak with John and Gabby anymore. We haven't since the very beginning. So I don't know what's going on. I don't want to be here. But what I do ask you is that we don't have to be here again to look at the same massive structure that has not been changed.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment?
I have one person on Zoom. Mr. Raskin, you can go ahead and speak. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. This is Ellis Raskin of Hanson Bridget LLP. We represent Kate Lord, the owner of 15 Walnut. I trust you've all seen the letter that we submitted this afternoon, and I don't want to repeat the points we've made in that letter, but I will say a few things to add on to the points that we've submitted in writing. I'm an attorney, and I appear before planning commissions and design review boards all the time. And in fact, I'm a member of a planning commission in Southern California, and it is unprecedented for a project applicant to come back in 3 successive meetings with no meaningful changes to the key points that board members have raised. As Mr. Soleil just pointed out, the key issue here is in large part the massing of this building. And there have been no changes whatsoever to the street-facing massing. We concur and agree with Mr. Soleil that we hope that this won't have to come back a 4th time. And as Mr. Soleil said, this is really an issue where the project applicants have really not worked with members of the community. They have not reached out to neighbors, and they have not tried to find good, meaningful design solutions that can address the key issues here. And I just want to make one final procedural point. I think that there were some comments last time to the effect of the fact that this board either should not or could not consider the ADU. I just want to say for the record that that's legally not correct. The design review rules of this town say that the entirety of a project has to be considered all at the same time. That's section 18.41.100, subdivision 01. You can't segment and split up different aspects of a project and look at their design impacts separately. The entirety of the project has to be considered. I mean, obviously there are a lot more points we want to comment on about this project. I'll cut off my comments there for the sake of time, and thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. And just to clarify for anyone in the audience and the people who just spoke, those guidelines were written prior to the current state laws. And
Correct.
there have been changes in the entire state of California regarding ADUs and their approval and what can and can't be spoken about or restricted, so that now it doesn't apply anymore. Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak about this project before I bring it? Oh, we have a hand up in the back.
My name is Matilda Thompson, Tilda, and my partner Robert Archer and I live at 26 Walnut Avenue next to 28. The house has been in my family since 1964. I was lucky enough to inherit it after my parents died in 1997, and I've lived there since 2008. I am very familiar with the neighborhood. I submitted a letter for the January 17th hearing and again for this hearing. I will not repeat my comments in the letter, except to expand a bit on the privacy issue that has been raised. My house is uphill and in direct line of sight with the back of the house at 15 Walnut. I incorrectly referred to it as being on Olive in my letter to you. From my second floor windows, I am not able to see the swimming pool or the backyard. I can see the top of a trellis only. I think it is a stretch to think that 28 Walnut, which is in the same line of mine on the ridge, but the next lot over, would be able to see into the backyard of 15 Walnut. Also, the owners of 28 Walnut, Gabby and John, have submitted an extensive landscape plan to address just such an issue, and it doesn't seem that it's being given much consideration in addressing the privacy issue. And also, the comment earlier about the Douglas fir tree, I'm right next door, and I watched when they did that to the tree, and my arborist told me it ultimately kills the tree, so it's no reason to keep it. My other comment has to do with the fact that this application is for a remodel. It is not a tear down and a new house construction from the ground up, which is often what is happening in Ross when properties sell. Lagunitas Road is becoming a poster child for tear downs, it seems. I was relieved to find that their plans were to keep the house and modify it to their liking. I and my neighbors would not be living through years of excavation and construction. I would like to think that some consideration would be given to their desire to work with an existing house to create a home that meets their criteria while conforming to Town of Ross guidelines. I hope you will approve this application as presented. And also, I think I still have a green light. I personally think that the bridge, which all of you seem to comment makes it so massive, I think it's interesting. It connects the ADU to the house. I don't think it creates more mass. It's open underneath, a large walkway underneath to the back. And I think it's a very creative idea, and I don't find it at all offensive. So I hope you can approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Matilda. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about this project? Okay, I'll bring it back to the ADR for recommendations. Joey, are you okay to go first on this one?
Sure. I had the pleasure of speaking with Phoebe on the phone during this last hiatus, and we tried to work out some of the design issues that I was concerned about, and I do applaud the changes in the fenestration and the effort to make them have a more regular style, the elimination of the balcony, the celebration of the front door to make it seem more,
No, that was from that previous speaker.
I think all of those are very positive moves. Unfortunately, we just could not come to an agreement about the bridge. I really think it adds to the mass of the project, and we are not allowed to comment at all on the ADU. And Mr. Soleil, I feel for you. I really feel for you. And there's not one thing we can say or do about it. That's part of the reason there can't be much planting there, because there's the garage, I will call it the garage, is very close to the property line. Anyhow, my comments are pretty much the same. I'm not a fan of the bridge. I think it adds to the massing, but I think the style changes on the right side of the building are very positive. I wish the left side, the garage, was just appeared to be bigger than the house, but nothing we can do about that. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Laura?
Well, go ahead. First, starting with the positive, really the changes to the windows, increasing the size at the entry, and changing the balcony, all were improvements to the project. I think trying to compare it to your neighbor's house without taking into consideration lot size doesn't really add to the argument at all, especially when you're adding bulk and mass from the ADU, which is then however many 800 square, I'm not sure the size of your ADU, but, and the additional storage space that's near the lot line as well. So I know we can't talk about the ADU, but I don't know, can we talk about the storage space that's at the lot line, or is that also not?
Remind me, is the storage space being added on to the garage?
To the left of the garage,
So it's an addition?
but it doesn't count towards the FAR because it's 6'11" ceiling height. So then it's increasing bulk and mass without counting towards what we're trying to compare to the neighbors' houses in scale.
Correct. So you can comment on the storage space.
Right, so I would say probably wouldn't be good to add storage space there when you could add storage space at the rear side of the garage and follow the natural topography of the site. Because I think I said that in the first meeting as well. And then again, yeah, I think perhaps the desire to maintain their yard and deck space for themselves that's pushing that storage space, maybe I'm too close to the mic, that's pushing that storage space out to the property line. But, yeah, it doesn't, that just is not something I feel supportive of. I think that was everything I wanted to add. Oh, and I know the neighbor was concerned about windows at the ADU, requesting that there's no windows facing Walnut, but that doesn't really seem like a reasonable request, so I would support windows on the ADU. I guess actually I can't say that either.
No.
Sorry. Yeah, okay. That's what I wanted to add. So.
Thank you. Stephen? Thank you. I agree. I think the primary facade has been very well redesigned. All of the fenestration and that just it's balanced. It looks good. And I'm a little bit split from my colleagues in that I think that the bridge itself is great. It's in the buildable area and it's in a spot that does not create undue bulk and mass. I'm okay with the bulk and mass of it in its location there, but I'm uncomfortable with the bulk and mass near the property line, which is the ADU. If the ADU portion that was the second bedroom and the entrance and stair and storage were all pushed to the rear of the garage, this would be a lovely balanced looking project, I think. I know we can't comment on the ADU, but I think when I just cover that up with my hand, it looks lovely. And I really think the bridge isn't the problem, but the ADU is, and I know we're in a bind in how we can speak about it. But I think that everything is kind of well designed in relation to the design guidelines in the buildable area. And it's really the ADU that's problematic for me. So I can support the portion of the project that is in the buildable area that we're presented with here.
I agree with all my colleagues that the new design is significantly better, especially looking from the street on the right side in the center of the project. I also don't like the bridge, and I agree with Laura that the storage space and the bulk next to the garage would be best off elsewhere.
One follow-up comment I forgot to say. In my conversation with Phoebe, we were talking about how could I support that bridge. And it could be a very cool element. I felt that if the thing we're not allowed to talk about was narrower and more subservient to the main house, the bridge could be a very interesting element if it had some character at all. It's just a blank wall. I suggested in that case it could be all glazed. and it could be a see-through connector between the two buildings, but that I could not support it if the thing that shall not be named remained as big as it is. So those were my comments to Phoebe when we met via Zoom a month or so ago.
Okay, do you have enough, Rebecca?
I do have enough, so we're moving it to town council based on your comments. I guess I'm just not clear. I think Stephen I'm clear on. I'm not clear on Laura and Joey. Are you recommending that it
Whether
move to
specifically
town?
you can recommend approval of
Right.
the portion of the project that you can
That is
comment
under,
on.
thank you.
I could recommend it without the bridge.
For the portion that I can comment on, I can support it. So,
Mark?
Yeah, I would support it without the bridge.
Okay, that's much clearer. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, yes. Thank you for asking us to clarify. Okay, moving on. And as a side note, it is not unprecedented for us to have a project come 3 times where it's not substantially changed, as we all witnessed on Hilbert. It was at least 3 times, and it felt like 7. Okay. So we are now moving on to 101 Upper Road. I will let the town present it.
Good evening, Chair Krishna and ADR members. The applicant is requesting approval of a design review, hillside lot permit, and a variance to construct new landscape structures. The project proposes to construct a new pool, spa, patio, fire pit, an outdoor kitchen, retaining walls, and an outdoor shower within the side and rear yard setback, requiring a variance. The project also proposes a new fence along the driveway easement. An ADU has previously been approved, which is in the background of the rendering. At the time of writing the staff report, no public comments were received. However, staff did receive comments from a neighbor. The neighbor is concerned about the structures are not in harmony with the landscape or the neighborhood. Additionally, the project applicant has met with the adjacent neighbor on site and has made some changes to accommodate their concerns. The applicant will present the changes made in his presentation. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to Town Council.
Thank you. Would you like to present now, or your design team?
Yes.
Okay,
If
great.
you can. Hello, my name is. Can you hear me?
Not very well.
Oh. My name is Vincent. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Or not?
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, dear town official, neighbors, and members of the public. I'm Vincent Leger. I'm with EAG Studio. If I can share my screen, I will go through a few slides. So if I can be allowed to share the screen.
You should be able to share now.
Thank you. Maybe starting with the first slide, which you've already seen. Our clients are proposing to add a pool, patio, and accompanying features to their yard for them to enjoy with their young family. We work very closely with the competent planners, the fire department, building
I'm sorry to
department.
interrupt. It's really
Yes.
hard to
There's a
hear you.
strange
It's-
echo
It's really
with your
echoey.
microphone.
Is Michael, do you have are you on mute?
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe you could just use your computer microphone instead of the headphones. Maybe that would work.
do that to actually better the quality. Oh. Let me try to revise the settings. I apologize for that. I tested earlier. Is this a little bit better?
Speak some more, it's hard to tell with just one word.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's more clear, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, let me continue. I was saying that we worked with the town officials and the neighbors to come up with optimal plan that is the least disruptive to the neighbors, the surroundings, the significant trees, and the plan is also safe and well thought through aesthetically. There are very few locations on the property that would allow for these features that also do not disrupt the natural landscape of the area. The location that was selected carefully in order to preserve significant trees and to blend into the natural landscape, as can be seen from this slide. The specified location is partially within the standard setbacks, and we are humbly requesting a variance for the project. We believe that the project satisfies the variance finding as described in the Town of Ross Municipal Code, and it fits well within the neighborhood patterns. We would like to briefly run through the findings now. We're requesting this variance due to the irregular shape of the lot, the limiting topography, efforts to preserve significant trees, and the fact that it is almost entirely surrounded by roads, making it difficult to ascertain which segments of the property line is front, side, rear, as defined by the municipal code. Since the property doesn't have a traditional rear yard, the northern portion of the lot is the optimal placement for a pool. This places it far from the through road portion of Upper Road. However, a small portion of the pool and fireplace lands within the required setbacks, as is shown in this with the red line here. As you can see from this slide, superimposed with a rendering next to it, efforts have been made to carve these features into the hillside in an open area to cause the least amount of disruption to existing site features. Many properties around the vicinity feature pool and similar features to enjoy the outdoors. Many of these properties have structures or pools that partially also encroach into the standard setbacks. The subject property owners have children and would like to further their property configuration as a family home. Granting the variance should not create an apparent adverse effect or impact on the neighborhood character or on neighboring properties, and will be very consistent with the other home in the area. Maybe I can go back to the second slide. The placement of the different outdoor features such as the patio, the pool, the outdoor fireplace was done with careful consideration to minimize impact and meet guidelines whenever possible. And the orientation, the shape of the pool was designed in order to minimize the impact of the neighbors as well as the public in terms of their views and privacy. The impact to neighbors as experienced from their home is basically non-existent. We've tucked it away from the through road portion of Upper Road on the northern portion so that the lot is not visible by people who are going up the driveway. Furthermore, the setback in questions are adjacent to the shared driveways, so the location of the pool is not encroaching on any buffers intended for privacy for the neighboring properties. As stated, the placement of the added site features also took into account the surrounding environment, trees, and the landscape so that the impact is minimized, and more often than not, quite insignificant. And then we've heard recent concerns of surrounding neighbors that have made adjustment to the plan. I will go through those adjustments. Maybe I was looking at the renderings. The guardrail of the ADU, so the guardrail of the ADU on the green roof has been set back from the edge and utilizes a cable rail so that its impact is lessened. Another concession, we're planning a stone, and I'll go back to we're planning a retaining wall on the back edge of the barbecue to break up the topography and to shorten the perceived retaining wall height from the private drive. We also propose a minimalist wire fence that is largely see-through to keep the landscape open to passers-by. And plantings will also be used, the street-facing retaining walls to minimize visual impact of these walls for people coming down the driveway. In addition, the rooftop of the ADU is being designed as a green roof so that the landscape shows on top to preserve landscape views of appeal neighbors. All in all, we tried very hard to help our clients improve their property a little bit while working with town guidelines, the neighbors and surroundings. Brad Dixty, our collaborating landscape architect, who ran out of power earlier and may have reappeared at his home, as well as my colleagues, will remain available for questions. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, could you pause on your screen right there? I have a question, and I'm going to point something out, and then the owners, could you go back to where you just were, actually?
Yes.
No, keep going. It was the...
Can I also suggest something? I know there's another architect
There.
from the firm
No,
on the screen.
back one.
Maybe it's better if he answers the questions. There's
Yeah, because
Michael,
I'm having a
it's-
lot of trouble understanding
Yeah.
anything.
Vin, it's really hard to understand you and hear you. If Michael could answer the questions, it might help the process.
And can we change the screen back one again? To the driveway view, the other driveway view?
From the other side?
Keep going.
I can also pull these up.
Oh, can you
That's
just do it,
better.
Rebecca?
Yeah.
That would be much easier. Thank you.
Maybe. It might take me a minute. Maybe he should keep them up.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then my question, maybe you can just answer since you're here. That's a shared driveway with how many homes up it?
Michael, do you want to?
And you being the bottom one, obviously. Okay, got it.
It's also the property owners who own that shared driveway is 111 Upper Road. So all these other homes have an ingress and egress easement over the property owners, or the 111 Upper Road owns that
Okay.
driveway. I don't know if I can pull it up.
You might need him, do you need him to stop the screen share?
Yeah.
There, that.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, Mark, it's really helpful if you go to the mic or we'll never get this. Here.
So that top level, the top level is with the railing is where the pool is, or is the pool? Got it. And that living roof seems to have a railing on it. So it's an occupiable, like, deck, outdoor area.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, okay, I understand now. I was just trying to understand this picture of what was on the 1, 2, 3, the 3 or 4 different levels.
Would you like us to
Okay.
respond?
Got it, I understand. Okay, great. Does anyone from the ADR have questions?
I have a question which I think is for the planning staff, and that is the It looks like the barbecue area and the terrace that is on the left-hand side of the ADU is part of the application tonight. It's not part of the ADU already approved. That's a portion that we're considering this evening. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're considering the occupiable nature and guardrails of the roof. We're considering the terrace that runs along the front or the bottom side of the drawing of the ADU, as well as the pool and terrace of the pool and retaining walls.
Yes, and I'd also like to add the patio that kind of comes around the back of the ADU that has the outdoor shower is part of your review tonight as well.
Can
I'm trying to pull up the plans, yeah.
Did the outdoor shower, I saw some email about it's possibly moving somewhere, is that?
If you can see my screen, those features I can point to.
maybe Rebecca, can you help us find the outdoor shower on the drawings? Yeah, got it.
So that little piece, which is
Perfect.
kind of around that corner that we were looking up.
And that's already kind of incorporated into the three-dimensional visualization that we were looking at just a minute ago.
It was that sort of louvered piece you could see.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Stephen, Laura, Joey, do you have any more questions?
Could you speak about materials? Could you speak about the materials of the retaining wall and basically any improvements? Are we allowed to talk about materials of the ADU?
No.
Okay,
No.
so how about materials of all of the improvements other than the ADU?
Brad, did you want to speak to the materiality of the retaining wall as inquired?
I'm sorry,
sorry, Vin,
we're having
we
trouble
can't hear
understanding. It would be
you.
great if one of the other architects or project planners or owners could answer the questions.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? It wasn't working earlier. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So we definitely plan to, the retaining walls are supposed to be, a stone tile face. Yeah, if you can scroll down to, yeah, this image, the previous image has a pretty good, this kind of stone siding is what we were going to clad the retaining walls in, or something similar.
And how high are they at their highest point from the road?
Which portion?
Just as you're driving up the road, the retaining walls that are
Okay.
holding the pool and the ADU?
So if we can go to the landscape drawing, it has all of the top of wall heights. There's an enlarged one if you go one more down, I believe. Yeah, so we're trying to minimize right there. So, top of walls at 174, the ground topo line is somewhere.
I can jump in
It's
here
about
if you want.
Yeah, Brad, can you speak to this, please?
Yeah, I was actually on site today and I met with the neighbors and the story poles are up and we measured the very top, the tallest wall on that corner is about 9'3" in height. And then we talked to the neighbor about adding a terrace wall below that. made out of native rock that we're certainly going to hit when we do some of the excavation work. And so we talked about building another terrace wall at about 170. Well, the top of the wall is at 174 and the bottom wall is at 165. So maybe putting a 3-foot wall kind of along that barbecue wall to bring the mass down. And then I am planting vertical evergreen shrubs against that wall as well. And we talked about that with the neighbor and the owner today as well, and showed him the plants. And, you know, we had a really productive meeting today out there. And the pool is not much above grade at all. Like the trough wall is 1 foot tall over by the barbecue and 3 feet tall over by, you know, the slope. It's kind of sloping away along the long edge of the pool. And then the trough above that is 5 feet. So the most that the pool is out of the ground is 62, 163 is 6 feet. So at one point there was talk that something was 11 feet, and then I heard 20 feet, and it's really absolute max is 9 feet 3, and the main patio area is around 6 to 6.5. And then I do have a lot, you know, I'm planting in front of it and using native plants and really to working to provide screening and really soften it that way. And then I was very careful to not remove any oak trees. And that was a lot of the siting of the project, was to make sure that we weren't going to remove any of the oak trees that are along the driveway in order to put this project in the ground.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other ADR questions?
Just a quick question. Is there, if someone could speak to the reason why the pool is not slightly closer to the house? Is it just like a topography thing, or someone wants to explain that?
Yeah, it's a topography thing. It really gets very steep as you get closer to the house. There's a really steep drop off kind of on the end where the Chase lounges are. There's rock outcroppings and there's existing trees, and it drops. This site is extremely steep in places. If you go to the slide up above, it'll show the contours. And if you zoom in on that, it's very steep between the edge of the pool and down to the kind of the courtyard turf area of the house. We did talk to the neighbor today about potentially sliding the whole project over a couple feet, which I think is okay. You know, I think I can move it 2 feet or maybe 3, but I'm really trying not to remove any trees. So you can see where the stairs go up. There's a group of trees right there, and then there's some other oak trees in that space, and I'm kind of winding between some rock outcroppings that exist on the site. And so it's, you know, it's nestled in here into this open area of the site that's bounded by steep topography, rock outcroppings, and existing oak trees. So I think that there is a little bit of wiggle room to move the whole project towards the main house, but not a lot.
Okay, and then follow up to that, what's the length of the pool?
Can you zoom in on that again? I have it, but I'm
It says 47.
47 feet, yeah. So it's narrow and long, longer than, you know, what we say is a typical pool is 40 by 18, 40 by 20 is a true, like, absolute typical pool. This is a little bit longer and much more narrow.
Okay, are there any more ADR questions before I open it up to the public? Okay, is there anyone in the audience at home or here who would like to speak about this project? Please, go up to the microphone.
Hi, Astrid Deeth and 111 Upper Road, and my husband Bo is on the Zoom because he. We own the driveway going up, and as discussed, there are 3 other houses on this shared driveway, 4 in total, so the one at the bottom, one and one upper, and then 3 others, including us. And I guess I did send comments in. I don't know if anybody, you did receive them. Okay,
Yes, thank
good.
you.
Okay, sorry it was late, but we just literally found out about the project a week ago, and we just started a conversation with the neighbors 24 hours ago. So we're moving in the right direction, but we feel there's further dialogue to be had and to sort of sort out and really cement some of these changes into the plans. So from our perspective, what we're concerned about is both the, it's very divorced from the main house. You've got the main house down here, and you've got this big, massive project up here. And there are discrepancies between the landscape plans, and the landscape architect who was out today was very helpful, constructive in his dialogue, and the construction plans. And one of the key ones is that outdoor shower, which sticks out. And if you look at the proximity to the oak tree, if the landscape architect's trying to save the oak trees, that shower, which isn't in the landscape plans, but is in the construction plans, would certainly endanger the oak tree. So the outdoor shower we object to a lot, which sticks out even, is 11 feet from the road. And it is, if you take the height of that, which is not approved in the ADU, it's 28 feet up from the road. So you'll be standing 11 feet away and have something 28 feet up there. That's pretty massive. And we strongly object to that because it changes the whole feel. Right now, it's just an open meadow, trees, and so on. So we think that's overwhelming and needs to move. And the other aspect of it is basically so it's the siting relative. So we'd love to move it closer to the house. We did walk around the property today with the owners of 1-1 Upper, and basically it is a tough topography, so we understand that. We think it can slide over. I sent a picture. It looks like there's a good gap there where it could move a bit closer to the house. And one of the questions is, does all the functionality have to be at that end? The barbecue, the outdoor terrace, etc. Why can't it be closer to the house so it impacts us less and impacts, or they have access to it closer to their house? So that's sort of a consideration I think there should be. The other thing is the architects have said that, that it's a small variance. It isn't. 52% of that project, excluding the ADU, is within the setbacks. So it's not a minor little variance that they're asking for. And 72% if you include the ADU cabana, which you're not allowed to discuss. But I think, so anyway, we're concerned about the relationship between structure and site and the visual, because the guidelines specifically say that pools, cabanas, and so forth should never be in a front or a side setback. Your visual guidelines do. So, it shouldn't be where it is. We understand, given the topography, it's hard to not have it there. But we'd just like to see it a little, it's just too massive from the driveway right now. It completely changes everything. So we want to try and work with the neighbors and their architects to kind of downsize things a little bit and just soften it all so that it's more palatable. And they made a good attempt at that today with the terrace and so on. Pull back up the pictures. I think it shows. Oh, okay.
But we saw those. So, yeah, thank you.
It's a pretty big structure, and it's very lopsided over to the side of the driveway, which is unfortunate. So that's one, so really, and then in terms of also, minimizing bulk and mass, we've had a couple of discussions how to try to do that, which is with the shower, with, the terracing and that kind of. The colors-wise, one of the things I think, is sort of the stone, as you saw, everything's done in a lighter. I think the lower ones were shown maybe just so they stuck out, the retaining walls in a light color, but hopefully that would be a natural stone. Because it would fit a lot better into, obviously, the whole configuration. So our biggest concern is just the mass that we're going to feel on that driveway, because it really changes the perspective, and it's extremely close. So, I understand the ADU can't be talked about, but the terrace and so on, I'm not sure why so much of it has to be within the setback and be pushed a little more towards the house.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's any other comments I didn't really make. Oh, the fences, which they've addressed, which was going to be a solid fence.
Okay.
But is now, going towards the open fence, which would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to make any comments? Okay, then I'll bring it back to
I
the-
have somebody on
Oh,
Zoom.
Sorry.
It looks like your last name is Stellan? You have your hand raised? I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm Estes' husband, and I'm owner of VOVO and 111 Upper, as Estes said. The only thing I wanted to add to Estes' comment is that I just want to emphasize that the 11 foot from the property line is in the 45-foot setback. And at the back of the property, we're talking they're within 25, 30 feet in a 70-foot setback. So this is a massive incursion into the setbacks. That was the only additional comment I wanted to add. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, thanks. Okay, so if there's no one else from the audience, either live or on Zoom, that wants to comment, I will then bring it back to the ADR for comments. I'll go first on this one. I would agree with what the neighbor said, that it seems that a huge bulk of this, I guess it's, I don't know whether it's 45% or the 52%, but approximately half of it is outside of the setbacks. And it seems like one of the many projects we see where people are sort of moving it farther and farther away from their house to maximize the space between their house and the pool so they can have the yard, but then it infringes upon the neighbors in the setbacks. And some of those walls are, look like, especially the top of that shower, looked like it was about 15 to 20 feet above the road by the time you got to the top of that wall. It just doesn't really fit with the topography there, and it seems like a very large encroachment for swimming pools, barbecues, patio equipment, et cetera. I think it should be either completely within the setbacks or very slightly encroaching on the setbacks. Certainly, this seems like a much more massive encroachment into a publicly used space by 3 or 4 different homes up the road. My comments. Oh, and when they eventually do build something, I do agree that earth tones would be much nicer than like a bright white stone as far as retaining walls. Who would like to go next?
I can go next. I think that a pool will fit on this site. I think you can do a pool here and it works. And I think that just the way that people's yards back up to one another, it's reasonable to think of an exception being granted here to put a pool that breaks setbacks somewhat. That said, I couldn't approve it as submitted, and I can make some very specific recommendations for what I would suggest changing if it comes back before us. I'm uncomfortable with the guardrails and the usable space on top of the ADU because it exacerbates or creates a nonconformity on top of a conforming element, but creates nonconformity in a place that we shouldn't have patios and things like that. And the visual of the guardrails, I think, is obtrusive. I think that the walls primarily are too tall in the area of the outdoor shower and the terrace on the barbecue side of the ADU, and particularly having a solid wall function as the guardrail, in this case the backstop for the barbecue, makes it much more large than it would be if it were a transparent railing. But I'm not sure I'm okay at all with terrace on that side of the building anyway. So if we were making conditions for approval right now, which I think we're going to see this project again, but if we were, I would say I'm okay approving it as submitted if we remove the usability and the guardrails from the top, if we move the outdoor shower to another part that's more in the buildable area, get rid of the terrace on the long or the short end of the ADU, which is the barbecue side, and because that'll much reduce the bulk and mass. I'm also uncomfortable, as you said, with the tall fountain wall because it's not part of the ADU, it's part of what's shielding the pool equipment. So I'd make the suggestion that the pool equipment go into an underground vault somewhere and that tall wall that serves as kind of a reflecting visual fountain wall be removed. I think I'm okay with the height of the retaining walls at the rear of the terrace. You know, those are the things that are making the usable space, and the terrace, we could suggest it be made smaller. I think I'm okay with the height of those. I'd like to hear what other ADR members say about that. And then the material, I think, should be changed to be more earth tone on the retaining walls themselves. I think that's it.
Well, I think it's a nice project, but there are some things that could be done to mitigate the impact on the neighbors. I agree that the materials looked a bit bright white, which is going to just make this stand out. And I think you want a structure that's going to kind of blend into nature as much as possible. The change in the fence was good when I was there. From the neighbor's driveway above, there were like deer in the yard and stuff, so I understand them wanting to kind of keep their view of green as much as possible. I guess I would question pushing the pool and the patio space and the shower and the barbecue that far towards the property line. When I reviewed the drawings on the computer, I thought, okay, it's just a road, maybe it's not a big deal, but it does seem to be just pushing that out onto the neighbors, perhaps a bit unnecessarily. So if that could be pulled in a little bit, I think that would help. I'm not completely sure, but I don't think Ross generally does like rooftop, rooftop for access to the rooftop. I don't think that's usually done, so I would just kind of have a question mark in that. I understand the railings for the kids, but then maybe you don't have the staircase, which creates an 11-foot wall at the rear. Maybe you don't have the staircase going to the rooftop then. I do like the green roof, but yeah, I'm just not sure. If we generally don't like balconies overlooking neighbors, isn't that kind of the same thing? So I would have a question on that. Okay, I think, yeah, and the outdoor shower, I would just probably not as close to the lot line. If there's a way to reconfigure that, that would make sense. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, I basically agree with most of what everybody said before me, so I'll try to keep this quick. I do think this is another case of kind of pushing all the development as far away from the house as possible, and then the neighbors are the ones that actually end up experiencing this more. And even though it's a road, it's a shared experience of those neighbors to drive up the road and see green. So I think, personally, I think anything that is in our purview, i.e. everything other than the ADU, needs to come back out of the setbacks. I don't think there's a reason why there's a barbecue and a deck in the setbacks, which basically that does function like a second-story balcony because it's pretty high off the road, and the barbecue is where a lot of the socializing happens. I could support pulling the pool out of the setback and perhaps making it shorter, and then putting all of the public space behind the pool dug into the hill even more so, and try to minimize the portion of this development that is cantilevered out over what is now kind of a wild green hill. I also agree with the other members that the materials themselves exacerbate the feeling that this is a huge development because they're white and they're light colored. I think you definitely should at least the part that's visible to the public from the road should be a natural color, and every attempt should be made to landscape it so you don't really experience it as this giant white new development on the hill. Regarding the green roof, it is a nice idea, but I feel like the applicants don't really experience it that much. It's the people above them that are looking down at it rather than the applicants actually seeing that green roof. And I think trying to use it and have a railing there basically makes it a second-story balcony, which we generally have not, we haven't approved or permitted. Hold on, I think that's it. I think even if you did a peaked roof on that structure that we're not supposed to talk about, it would be more in keeping with the main house and the development of the main. It's kind of, there's a couple different structures there. So those are my comments.
Thank you, everybody. That's our recommendations. We'll now move
Thank you.
on.
Thank you.
Anyone need a quick break, or are we good to keep moving? Great. Okay, we'll move on to 50 Wellington Avenue. Can the town do the presentation?
Good evening again. The applicant's requesting approval of design review and a variance to renovate the rear yard and replace landscape structures. The home is currently under construction, and the homeowners would like to renovate the rear yard, landscaping, and hardscape. The project proposes an arbor structure, a custom outdoor kitchen, and a fireplace structure. New concrete walls and planters are also proposed to soften the existing wood walls. The project also includes replacing the existing gate and adding a trash enclosure. All these improvements are proposed in the rear and side yard setback, requiring a variance. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the owners and/or their design team like to present this?
You're on mute.
Brad, you're muted, Brad.
I think Patrick Quigney's on if he wants to say anything, or I can just jump into this. I think Patrick's out of the country or out of town, but I see that he's on here.
Hi, we're here.
I can just jump into and.
Yeah, just jump in, Brad.
Okay, that sounds good. So this is a house that's under construction, and it's probably, I don't know, 75, 80% built. And the rear yard consisted of a patio before, so pretty much the patio is replacing an existing patio, but part of the rear yard main house was removed, and it therefore created a void in the existing patio. And there used to be a barbecue kind of right on the side of the house, near where the Loma Linda is labeled on my drawing. If we can pull up that L2 again. So a lot of this is, the goal is to basically recreate what was there. And the yard is right along Loma Linda, the road. And so there's a real goal to keep the privacy that's existing, but then to enhance the privacy, because right now you can see the cars drive by, and it really is, if you had a definition of a fishbowl, this is, people say this all the time, I live in a fishbowl. Well, this kind of is a fishbowl of a yard, and the setbacks are so extreme that nothing could be built on this within reason. So much of what we're proposing is to recreate what was existing and what is existing there now, but also provide separation from Loma Linda, the street. So the ways to do this is to create, I'm proposing an outdoor fireplace to give some separation from the road, and an arbor structure to give a little bit more privacy from the road above, and then screen planting to increase that privacy as well. I don't this shouldn't impact any neighbors. I know that the Quigneys have spoken to the neighbor to the, I want to say south, which is the only true neighbor that we have, and we're not doing any improvements on that side of the property. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if Patrick, if they want to have anything more to say, you know, feel free.
Does anyone have any questions? I just have one question. There's on the plan behind the garage, there's a playhouse listed.
Yeah.
Is that there now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Great.
existing.
Okay, that was my only question. Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments on this project? Okay, then I'll bring it back to the ADR. Who would like to go first? Joey?
I think it's beautifully designed as is, and it's a real improvement, and I support it as drawn. And I think the findings for the improvements being in the setback, the main finding is that it's got a huge hill behind it, and nobody can see it from the street. Nobody can really see it, and therefore, it doesn't really affect anyone. And I think it's a great project. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, it's interesting because looking at the plan, this is kind of similar to the last project, that it's surrounded by street, but the last one is sort of up on a pedestal, and this one is a little bit buried into the hillside. I drove up Loma Linda, and it really does not feel like it would visually impact the neighbors, so I could find the findings for a variance. I guess my one question is just with the TV above the fireplace. I don't know if that creates like a noise issue with neighbors. But everything else I support, and I think it's an improvement on the site, so thanks.
I agree with what Joey said. The TV seems strange, but we don't really regulate where people put appliances. People can just put a random TV wherever they want. Whether or not it's rude is another story in cases. But I do agree with you that although it seems similar to the other thing, the main difference here is going along with our design guidelines. This is built sort of into the existing topography as opposed to raising up and not being part of the normal topography, which I think was the issue with the last project where things were closer to the road.
I can also support it as submitted, and also I would add for the findings that it's an existing nonconformity, and so I don't think this is increasing or making more intense the use in the area of setback, and the setback isn't harming anyone adjacent where it is anyway, so I can completely support it as submitted.
Great.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out, we do have a noise ordinance, and that's 55 dBA. Should that TV get too loud, it would have to comply.
All right. Thank you. All right, and thank you for your presentations.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, sure. Thank
We'll
you.
now move on to Laura's last project this evening, 1 El Camino Bueno. Would the town like to do a quick two-sentence introduction, and then the owners and their design team can present?
Yes. So the applicant's requesting a design review and a variance for construction of a new 8-foot stamped concrete wall along Sir Francis Drake. The project proposes to replace the existing wood fence with a new stamped stone wall with vines and a 2-foot irrigation berm. A small section of the wall will be in the front yard facing El Camino Bueno. No landscaping will be removed. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to Town Council. Thank you.
Thanks.
David Bilsker, the owner of the property. It's not actually a stamped wall. It will be a formed concrete wall, so it's not going to be smooth and then stamped. It's just formed concrete as the wall to the north is. And essentially, it's just replacing the existing veiling wood fence to match the wall to the north. It's actually, we're going to use the same forms. And you can see the wall to the north it's actually bare compared to where we are, where there's a lot of foliage. And I'm not even sure you could see like the story poles from Sir Francis Drake for the majority of of the frontage along Sir Francis Drake. So I'll keep it simple. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Is the wall to the north, you're referencing the Hunt's property?
is.
Yeah, great.
And the height matches that, and then actually is a little bit lower than the wood fence to the south, which is the Allens.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Great. Thank you.
What,
Oh.
and you will plant it like the wall to the north?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
gonna copy everything you
Yeah,
did.
okay, great.
I'll go first. I approve of it. I know some people were, for some reason, freaked out about the Hunt's Wall when it was built, but I think it looks great. And I think the planting on it especially looks very nice. So that'll be nice to have another one, although we're not going to see it much because of all the current foliage in front of it.
I can support it as submitted. I think great.
I support it, planted.
Yes, I support it, and as I was driving here, I was going to ask if the planting was all going to stay. Glad it is, so you won't see the wall as much, and yeah, it's great.
Nice improvement.
Thank you. Well, you guys had to sit here a long time for that.
Gosh, I know. All for that. I know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it comes in chronological order. Okay, so you need to recuse yourself for the last two, correct?
Yes, I think I'm recused from the last two projects, so I will head home, if that's all right.
Have a nice evening.
Thank
Bye. See you.
Are you guys good to continue going?
Yes.
All right, we're moving right along. 74 Baywood Avenue.
The applicant is requesting approval of design review, a hillside lot permit, an ADU permit, and a variance to construct a new pool, deck retaining walls, and a new ADU. The project consists of minor interior and exterior renovations to the main house to include relocating the entry door, a new skylight, new windows, and new paint. The project also proposes a new 1,000 square foot ADU, new swimming pool, and retaining walls. The project proposes to demolish a 58 square foot garden storage attached to the main house and to use this additional square footage towards the ADU. The new retaining walls will be a maximum of 4 feet tall. A variance is required to exceed the allowable floor area and lot coverage, and also to construct a new pool within the side yard setback. New landscaping and hardscape is also proposed throughout the property. At the time of writing the staff report, no public comments were received. However, staff did receive a couple of emails from neighbors that approve of the project, but are concerned about the conditions of the road during and after construction phase. And one of the neighbors on the west side of the project is concerned about the skylight in the garage. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to town council. Thank you.
And we'll let the applicant and their team do their presentation now, introducing the project. And let me just say in regards, and for all the neighbors and everyone else, the ADR doesn't comment on construction processes, whether or not the road is sufficient, whether it's the best road or the worst road in the world, whether or not it's falling down. That's really just not our area of commenting. We're just talking about the design of a project. The town deals with all that, and that'll be part of the building permits that either are or are not issued when the project either does or does not go forward. And in regards to a specific easement that was granted, those easements are usually very clear and spelled out, and that is not something that we deal with here. That's a legal issue of the people that own the land and or granted the easement. Thank you. Please make your presentation. Or if you have someone on Zoom who's doing it, that's great too.
I think their team is on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name's Colleen Paz. I'm the designer on the project, and we have Rondi Johnson here, who's the landscape on the project, and the clients, Michal and Renat Zaglinski, are there in person, and they will speak after our presentation. In regards to the easement, I just should note that we are going to remove the skylight that the neighbor had an issue with. So after that, there's just the road issues, which we will address later in the project. Okay. So the address is 74 Baywood. The owners bought the house in 2021 after the previous owners sort of left their previous permit hastily and left some of the items unfinished. And after much value engineering, the footprint was reduced from what was approved in the previous permit, and the pool was removed from the scope. So while we're not asking to increase the FAR to what had been previously approved in 2016, we are asking for reapproval of a pool of a smaller dimension and more tucked into the site, and in addition, an ADU. So this is the existing house. We are changing the siding color and removing the stone skirt and tidying up the materials and bringing in some higher quality materials. We are building a new deck with a pool that is more tucked into the site than what had been previously approved. And we have an ADU, which is also rather tucked into the site here on the side. I should note that the site itself is rather small for zoning.
You're actually not screen sharing at the moment.
Oh. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
All right, from the top. So the address here, 74 Baywood. It is just under the Quail Hill Estate. Zoom in. This is the north side of the house. This is the house how it was purchased in 2021. So we are removing the stone skirt, tidying up the siding, replacing some of the windows and doors, and doing general landscape improvements. This is the rear of the house, and this is the proposed design. So no change to the house structure. It is just a few windows and doors at the rear. The deck and the pool are new, and the new landscape walls, which are required because the current wooden walls are failing. And then this is the new proposed ADU, which is also tucked into the hillside on the back. So again, worth noting, our site is here. It is this tiny one. Its zoning is for a 5-acre size lot, and we are only at about a ½ acre. So we're punished a bit with the FAR, but we're still not asking for that much of an increase. This is the previous permit, which had a 14.8% FAR, and notable here is the pool, which was approved, is further out in the site. And so we are pulling what was there back. And then in plan, this in red is the previously approved pool, and this is closer to what we're asking for here. So it's about 17 feet back. And then this slide is showing the existing wood walls that are failing that we will be replacing. And this is their current condition after the latest rains. And this is an elevation of that pool and the new walls. No walls are really over 4 feet. They're terraced down the site. And then here we have the ADU story poles as seen from the driveway. None of this is visible from the street, which is down here to the left. And the story poles from the rear yard. And I can take us into the building set and to the site plan here. So some interior work here, but for the most part, we're just moving the exterior front door and then accommodating that with new landscaping. And the ADU is, I can show you the section, rather tucked into the hillside here. And we are under the allowed 16 feet. We come in at about 14 feet.
Sir, I just have a quick question. You mentioned something about a storage area that was...
Correct. There is
in order to keep, you're allowed the 850 square feet, you're basically just taking 150 from somewhere else and just adding it to the ADU. That's why you need the permit for that. Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood.
Well, yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah, the garden shed is a bit cumbersome where it is, and it allows us to have more of an outdoor space between the ADU and the house. And considering the bulk of it, it doesn't hold much. So it's an easy loss. And here it is on the elevation.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Smart move. Does Anyone in the ADR have any questions about this project? Okay, Stephen? Okay, we have no questions.
Great.
Is there anyone in the public that wants to comment on this? Oh, sorry, go on.
Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm one of the owners with my wife, Renat. I think from the emails we received, the neighbors support it. The only comment that I made, and I know that this is not the purview, but the neighbors are listening, and I want to make it very, very clear. The road down there will be fixed as part of that project. I'm not contractor. I don't know if it's fixed before, after. I know that this is for the building permit, but this is one of the things that we committed to our neighbors to fix the road. The first issue was the fact that the other side of Bayview was closed, but it just got open today, so that issue ceased to be an issue. It seems like there's fine, the neighbors fixed that side. So all that I need to do as part of that project is, and I will be working with Colleen, is to fix a couple holes that just makes new road there, which we're committing to do because that's just the right thing to do. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I can go. It all seems fine to me. It seems like it's great that you're making the pool closer to the house. I think it'll be just nicer and probably far less expensive with retaining walls. Great place for an ADU. Since we are allowed to comment on this one, it seems.
Great.
Oh, yeah, you're not mic'd. It's okay. You know what? You don't need to describe that because that's.
Oh, sorry. It's the walls are, they were really, it was just a botched work job before. They're really falling, and the last rains really elevated the issue that we knew that they need to be replaced. Right now, they just need to be replaced ASAP as per the project. So that's what I think it adds to the safety of everybody as well.
Okay, well, yeah, just continue talking to the town. You'll be fine. Great. Joey?
Yes, I support it. It's very beautifully designed. I think it's going to be a big improvement to what's there. My only comment is that I really like the dark gray standing seam metal roof at the ADU, and it's kind of a shame you don't see very much of it because of the shape of the roof. And I wish I saw more of it in the rest of the project, but I'm kind of questioning how that would work with the existing roof forms. But anyway, I think it's very well designed. Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's very well designed. It's really pretty. I like the dark color. I like the fenestration changes to the main house. I think the change to the pool is really great. There was this huge retaining wall that was approved with the prior pool, and you've really sensitively designed the pool. So I think it's really, really excellent. So great job. I have one small improvement suggestion, and that is that the fenestration on the ADU, they're just smaller panels of glass than the main house. I just wish there was more compatibility between those two. There's also a little bit of the wood between the clear story windows and the main windows. It just looks a little bit, it's not as cool as the rest of your design. I think you have a little more to do on that one facade. But
Agreed.
It's just a great project, and so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to 2 Pomeroy Road. Would you like to present this?
Last one. All right. Yes. So, good evening. The applicant's requesting a design review and a demolition permit. The single-family residence is currently under renovation, and the project proposes to change the existing siding to western red cedar shingles. So staff is requesting that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to town council. Thank you.
So, I went and saw this. My question is, by replacing the existing siding, are we talking about the plywood? Because that seems to be the existing siding.
I think the existing siding has been removed
Oh, the pre-existing
Yeah,
siding,
the
okay.
pre-existing siding was
'Cause I looked at it like
T111.
it's
Yeah.
plywood, so.
Seems like they got into it
And then realized
told
they
them.
he came in, the contractor came in and realized we have a funny thing in our code that if you remove more than 25% of your siding, it takes a demolition permit as well as design review, which in this case, you know, here we are.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry for them.
Is there an owner or design team or some?
Yeah, we have Mark.
Oh, okay, great.
We have Mark.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hey, how you guys doing? I think Alex did a great job of just commenting on what we're applying for. At the moment right now, we're about 80% done in the construction phase, and we replaced all the windows and doors, and in doing so, we had to remove most of the siding, so that's why you see it up right now as just a plywood. So what we're asking for the new siding, instead of putting back T111, which was there previously, we want to use the Western Red Cedar, obviously doing the fire rated dense glass at the 1 hour rate. And, so yeah, that's what we're looking for this application.
Rebecca, could you pull up a picture of the siding proposed? Just what a Western red cedar shingle.
Is it proposed to be stained? I don't think that picture or a sample is provided, true?
Yeah, it's on, not this picture, but the next one. I believe there was a second photo I saw right there. If you zoom in a little bit, we put up a sample there next to the windows so you can get an idea. It's currently not stained. We didn't.
Same color.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Just in that
hadn't.
picture, it looks like the plywood.
Yeah, we haven't discussed about a stain at all, but we were wanting to keep it a natural color. So if there is any stain on there, it would be a clear one anyways.
Okay. Great. Any questions? Any comments from the public? Okay, I'll bring it back to the ADR for recommendations. Joey?
I'm fine with it.
Great.
Looks good to me.
Sorry you had to go through this. And do the last
Oh.
one for the easiest.
I thought she was going to thank us.
Shoot.
I do have one information and discussion item, just really quickly, before we run out of here.
For the horses, before the horses see the
Um,
barn.
Yeah, I know. We did a great job. It was a long agenda. Thank you for moving it fast.
But this is a perfect example of why in some months we might want to have 2 meetings, although these went very
I thought-
quick.
yeah, I
I feel
thought
I
these
should
were-
post this on Strava with my 7 completed projects. It's a PR.
Bye.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Good luck.
post it.
I know, could we do ADR on Strava?
Yes.
It's a marathon.
My quick announcement is the town council meeting for August has been moved. It is moved to August 24th. So that just kind of it'll make a longer turnaround from the July ADR to, if projects are approved at the July ADR, to the August meeting. So I'll have to sort of really try to balance those agendas. It's typically the second Thursday of the month, and in August, it's actually the 4th. So it's just, something to keep in mind if we have a really big agenda in July.
Well, it's funny, I just happened to press on the correct day for
Oh.
that. So it starts August 15th. School starts, the
Oh, how
Roth School does.
sad.
So you should know that, like, for those of us with kids, like, for sure, we'll be here, back in town
Right.
by August 15th and probably a couple days before.
Great.
Wait, hold on a second. It is now scheduled for the 15th.
No, August 24th.
Art.
I'm talking about town council.
But
Yeah,
us.
but for
So
us.
how
Sorry,
did- yes. Can we keep it?
It will be problematic because we have to notice for the council meeting
Bye Beach.
on the 11th of August. So anything that gets approved at the August 15th ADR meeting will have to wait until the September town council meeting.
But yeah, I'll
But I
probably,
can't imagine with everyone's kids back in, like, this is probably
I'll
not
probably
gonna
be
it.
gone until like the 13th or so. So like the 14th would probably be the first day I could do it anyway.
Same, I don't want to have to
Let's
come
just
back
keep
sooner.
it. Let's keep it, and I'll just really try to manage the ADR agendas in June, right?
Yeah, and just let people know that.
Yeah.
Maybe bulk up on the July one.
Right.
I can't believe we got done with 7 projects in less than 2 hours.
I know, I
That's
was a little nervous
spectacular.
with the agenda.
I was very concerned when I saw it.
There were some that were no-brainers,
Yes.
and some that make me hurt.
Okay, I suggest